there was another thing that came out in the last week that we do also need to kind of have a little bit of a discussion about and review, and that is a report that John Canzanos put out about Grand Canyon being a no-show at the WCC Executive Cabinet meeting last week. This is one where all of the future participant members for next season were to attend, so that would have included Seattle U, Washington State, Oregon State, and Gonzaga. And Grand Canyon was their athletic director, Jamie Boggs, a no-show. GCU president, Brian Mueller, who was supposed to be on a Zoom call with the other league presidents, was also a no-show. And there are also additional reports saying that Grand Canyon has received an offer from the Mountain West. And so obviously this would lead many to believe that this is a sign that Grand Canyon may indeed jump ship from the WCC to the Mountain West before they ever play a game in the WCC. Now, I'll try to get some clarity and some confirmation on what exactly does this mean. Like, let's say they decide tomorrow that they're leaving for the Mountain West. Does that mean that Grand Canyon will not play as part of the WCC next season, and they'll just jump to the Mountain West? I do not know that confirmation as of right now, so I'll try to figure that out. But in the meantime, what we do know is that this announcement came just months after that Grand Canyon University announced that they would be leaving the WAC to head to the WCC. But of course, what we also know is that in the meantime, that Gonzaga has announced their departure to the Pac-12. And of course, in the wake of that, we also started to see rumors about preliminary talks from the Pac-12 with St. Mary's and with Grand Canyon. So it's not like that hearing that they might have a plan in place to go elsewhere is a surprise. Just in the way it's come about might be the little bit of the not distressing part, but concerning part if you are someone who's involved with the WCC. Because regardless of what many people think about Grand Canyon on the academic side, there is something to be said about their competitiveness and their value on the basketball front. Because let's be honest, like, they have been one of the better mid-major programs over the last few seasons. There is money that's poured into that program. They are developing a consistency as far as their success rate, obviously having been to the tournament each of the last couple of years. But they're also trying to figure out how they move up, because it's very obvious that they've outgrown the WAC, that as they have grown in their program status, that is a conference that they have kind of surpassed and they need to upgrade. And of course, the WCC was going to be part of that. Now there's conversations, obviously, that the Mountain West is involved. The report that John Canzano put out also talked about the framework of that Mountain West deal. The GCU would be paying a $3.5 million entry fee to the Mountain West, and that the Lopes would get a guaranteed $1.5 million media rights distribution over the next 6 years. So that is part of what has been put out there for GCU and the Mountain West deal. The one thing I keep thinking about, and now this is obviously, like, there's so much to be said about what the future ESPN deal, TV deal, media rights deal is going to be, not only for the Mountain West, but also for the WCC. And that was something that Stu Jackson talked about in the interview that I had with him just 2 weeks ago at Media Day. And yes, the number is going to move without Gonzaga. What that looks like moving forward is going to be tough to say. And of course, I think the math changes without Grand Canyon being a part of that as well. Because I'm sure that, like, a conference that was headlined by St. Mary's and Grand Canyon is going to be a lot more attractive than one that's going to be headlined by St. Mary's and either USF or Santa Clara. And so it is distressing of what the WCC's media rights deal might look like in a couple of years, sans Washington State, Oregon State, and Gonzaga. And now it sounds like even possibly Grand Canyon. Now, on a competitive front, I will say this. I don't know in the future states of either of those leagues. There's a ton of difference between the Mountain West and the WCC. Because looking forward in 2 years, when Gonzaga and the two Pac-12 schools bolt, when Seattle comes in, when on the Mountain West side, you have the likes of Utah State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State all head to the Pac-12 as well. What is left are two leagues that, honestly, like both leagues are going to be in a world of hurt. But it's not like I feel like that the top of the league is that all that dissimilar from each other. So looking at the KenPom numbers, let's, as of today, of what they look like. Your top three teams, actually, even let me go a step further. I'm going to go to your top 5 teams in the WCC versus the top 5 teams in the Mountain West, not counting Grand Canyon, but also including the teams that both leagues will have picked up by that stage. So that for the WCC, that does include Seattle. For the Mountain West, that would include UTEP. And then I did kind of a comparison of what this would look like with or without NIU and Toledo, which are also two other schools that have been rumored to be part of this deal. So the top 5 are KenPom numbers for the Mountain West schools are 62, 73, 94, 171, and 198. That is the top 5 schools of the remaining teams that will still be in that league. So 198 is that lowest number. For the WCC, it's 34, 85, 95, 119, and 131. So the top tier of the WCC is still better than the top tier of the Mountain West. And again, like, you are going to have to take some level of a factor into what does not having Gonzaga, how does not having Gonzaga impact those numbers? And for the Mountain West, how does not having 5 of those 5 teams, especially considering 4 of them were tournament teams a year ago, impact what those numbers look like as well, all in a negative fashion. And while, yes, like, I'll fully admit, the bottom of the WCC is really what drags this down. The overall number, I think, is like average is 152 for the Mountain West. The average is 172 for the WCC. It's largely because those bottom 4 teams in the WCC are 232, 274, 287, 295. Like the bottom 4 teams of the WCC are lower than any of the remaining Mountain West teams, which there is going to be that balance, because I do feel like that you look over at the WCC and a top tier league that includes St. Mary's, Grand Canyon, USF Santa Clara, to me sounds better than a Grand Canyon, New Mexico, UNLV, and Nevada. Like, to me, that the WCC version of it sounds better. But there's still a lot of things that still have to happen for this to become real, for it to come to fruition. Now, Grand Canyon might look at it like, yes, the college markets of those cities are better. Like, you look at Reno, Las Cruces, you look at Albuquerque, not Las Cruces, Albuquerque. You look at Vegas. Like, there are better college markets in those spots than maybe, say, San Francisco, Moraga, LA, Malibu, Portland, Seattle. But those are also those are major markets, TV markets. And while usually college has such a very small component of that TV revenue and TV market, there's still opportunity to be said in those regions. So more to come, but we'll see about the Grand Canyon situation. Is if they leave, I don't know where the WCC goes from there, because that league is starting to run out of options on who it could potentially bring in to to make that a stronger league, with knowing that Gonzaga is on their way out the door, and St. Mary's has been getting calls from other leagues to possibly see about them as well.